The city of Portland, Maine glowed under the late afternoon sun, its cobblestone streets winding between colorful facades and wrought iron balconies adorned with fresh flowers. In the heart of the city, Harbor Square vibrated with energy from a charity event organized to support families in need. Colorful stalls lined up under vibrant awnings, while the music of a local band mingled with children's laughter, creating an atmosphere of community celebration. Olivia Mitchell, the young event organizer, moved quickly and determinedly between the stalls, her hair pulled back in a messy bun reflecting the intensity of the day. Though her attire was simple, jeans and a white button-down shirt with rolled-up sleeves, her posture conveyed confidence and strength. Known for her tireless dedication to the community, she had spent years leading the Harbor Community Center, resisting financial and political challenges to keep the space active. For her, this event wasn't just a tradition, but a symbol of hope amid daily struggles. The festive atmosphere was interrupted when a luxurious black car stopped at the edge of the square, drawing everyone's attention. The doors opened slowly, revealing Jackson Hayes, a 35-year-old tech millionaire seated in a state-of-the-art wheelchair with leather and polished steel details that reflected his sophisticated style and taste for technology. With a perfectly trimmed beard and hair as black as night, he wore a tailored suit and an elegant white pocket square folded in his jacket pocket. His deep blue eyes analyzed the crowd with a mixture of distrust and pride, like someone who had long learned not to trust anyone. To many, he was a mystery. Few knew that the accident that left him paraplegic had been caused by personal and business betrayal, perpetrated by someone he blindly trusted. Since then, his worldview had hardened, carrying not only physical pain but also the emotional scars of having been betrayed by someone he deeply loved. When he approached the donation area, the soft hum of his electric motor cut through the murmur of the crowd and volunteers instinctively stepped aside. Olivia immediately noticed his presence. Something about his haughty posture irritated her, but she decided to remain professional, approaching with a polite and firm tone. "Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you?" she asked, forcing a warm smile. He didn't look at her directly. He took off a high-quality leather coat that covered his legs and handed it to one of the nearby volunteers. "I hope you make good use of this," he said in a firm, controlled voice, shaped by years of international business. Without further words, he turned his wheelchair to leave, his face expressionless, but his eyes scrutinizing the environment with distrust. She observed his departure with a slight tension in her gaze, unaware that inside the coat was his wallet, containing personal documents, credit cards, and a considerable amount of cash. Later, while organizing the donations, Olivia found the coat again. As she checked the pockets, her fingers touched something solid. It was the millionaire's wallet. Opening it, she saw his name engraved in golden letters and a sum of money that exceeded what any ordinary person would carry. She took a deep breath, her heart racing as she understood what she had found. Without hesitation, she headed for the microphone to announce the discovery, but before she could say anything, Jackson burst into the square, his chair moving quickly, his face marked by fury. "You!" he shouted, pointing at her with a finger. "You have my wallet. What kind of organization allows theft at a charity event?" His voice resonated across the square, attracting the attention of volunteers and onlookers. Stunned by the accusation, she clutched the wallet in her hands, feeling the heat of embarrassment rise to her face. "Excuse me? What are you talking about?" she replied, trying to maintain her composure. "Don't play innocent," he retorted, approaching. With firm steps, his face hardened by anger. "My wallet was in my coat and now it's in your hands. Don't pretend you don't know what that means." The whispers grew around them, forming a circle of curious and distrustful glances. A nearby volunteer tried to intervene, but Jackson raised his hand, silencing any attempt at defense. With eyes burning with indignation, Olivia raised her voice, determined not to be humiliated. "I found it while checking the donations. I was about to announce it when you decided to yell at me in front of everyone." He squinted, clearly reluctant to accept the explanation. "Convenient," he muttered, crossing his arms with disdain. "That's exactly what someone would say to cover." upper theft. The tension between them thickened like a fog. The crowd watched wide-eyed as two worlds collided in the middle of what was supposed to be a day of charity and goodwill. Olivia's colleagues exchanged worried glances, unsure whether to intervene or let the drama unfold. "Mr. Hayes," Olivia's voice was controlled but tight with anger. "If I had wanted to steal your wallet, do you really think I'd be standing here holding it in plain sight? I was literally walking to the microphone to announce that we found it." Jackson scoffed, the bitter taste of betrayal, an old familiar companion rising in his throat. "People are capable of anything. I've learned that the hard way." A flash of genuine hurt crossed Olivia's face before she masked it with professional detachment. "Well, I'm sorry for whatever happened to make you so cynical, but not everyone is out to get you." She held out the wallet, maintaining eye contact. "Here, check if anything's missing." The challenge in her voice was unmistakable. Jackson took the wallet with a swift, almost angry motion. He flipped through it methodically, counting the cash, checking his cards. Everything was there, not a single dollar missing. The realization slowly sank in, along with an unfamiliar feeling that felt suspiciously like shame. The crowd began to disperse, the excitement dying down as it became clear there would be no further drama. Olivia turned away, her shoulders squared, dignity intact despite the public accusation. "Wait," Jackson called after her, his voice softer now but still guarded. Olivia paused but didn't turn around. "I may have jumped to conclusions." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was something. Olivia slowly turned to face him. "Yes, you did." Their eyes locked in a moment of silent communication, his filled with reluctant respect, hers with wounded pride but unwavering strength. Neither could have known that this charged encounter was just the beginning of their story, the first thread in a tapestry that would weave their lives together in ways neither could imagine. As Jackson wheeled away, disappearing into the crowd, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that their paths would cross again, and when they did, she would be ready. In the days that followed the incident at Harbour Square, Olivia tried to put the confrontation behind her. The Harbour Community Centre needed her full attention, especially with the building's leaky roof threatening to give way at the next heavy rainfall. Yet she found herself replaying the encounter with Jackson Hayes in her mind, his eyes cold as steel, accusing her of theft in front of everyone. The memory stung more than she cared to admit. "Earth to Olivia," called Sarah Rodriguez, her assistant and closest friend at the center. "You've been staring at that budget sheet for 20 minutes without blinking." Olivia shook her head, forcing a smile. "Sorry, just trying to make these numbers work." She gestured at the spreadsheet before her, where the center's financial reality was laid bare in unforgiving columns of red. "We need a miracle to fix that roof before the spring rains hit." Sarah perched on the edge of the desk. "Or a millionaire donor," she suggested with a meaningful look. "Don't even think about it," Olivia warned, knowing exactly who Sarah was referring to. "That man has more trust issues than a cat that's been stepped on. Besides, after publicly accusing me of stealing, I doubt he's in a charitable mood toward us." His company, Hayes Innovations, donates millions to similar causes every year, Sarah persisted. "And word has it that he's looking for new local projects to support. Your little showdown might actually have put us on his radar." "Great. Just what I need. To be on the radar of a man who thinks I'm a thief." Their conversation was interrupted by the community center's door swinging open, bringing in a gust of wind and the last person Olivia expected to see. Jackson Hayes navigated his wheelchair through the doorway with practiced ease, his presence immediately commanding the room. Gone was the formal suit, replaced by a more casual button-down shirt and designer jeans. But his eyes, those piercing blue eyes, remained as intense as Olivia remembered. The small group of elderly women practicing Tai Chi in the corner fell silent. The teenagers shooting hoops stopped mid-game. Even the perpetually barking therapy dog in the corner office seemed to hold its breath. "Ms. Mitchell," Jackson acknowledged with a curt nod. "May I have a word?" Olivia exchanged a glance with Sarah, who raised her eyebrows in a told-you-so expression before discreetly backing away. With a deep breath, Olivia gestured toward her small office. "Mr. Hayes, what can I do for you?" she asked once they were seated, her voice carefully neutral. Jackson's fingers drummed against the armrest of his wheelchair. "I came to make amends," he said finally, the words seeming to cost him considerable effort. "My behavior at the charity event was inappropriate." "Inappropriate," Olivia repeated, letting the word hang in the air between them. "You accused me of theft in front of my entire community." A muscle twitched in Jackson's jaw. "Yes, and I was wrong." His gaze, direct and unflinching, met hers. "I've spent most of my adult life dealing with people who want something from me. My money, my influence, my technology. It's made me cautious." "You mean paranoid?" The corner of his mouth lifted in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "Perhaps, but in my experience, people rarely do things without expecting something in return." "Well, welcome to the non-profit world, Mr. Hayes. Here, people do things because they're the right things to do." For a moment, Jackson seemed genuinely intrigued by the concept. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, placing it on the desk between them. "A donation," he explained, "for whatever the center needs most." Olivia made no move to touch the envelope. "Is this meant to buy my forgiveness?" The ghost's smile disappeared. "No, Ms. Mitchell, it's meant to help this community center, which I understand does important work." He paused, studying her with newfound respect. "Whether you forgive me or not is entirely separate." Before Olivia could respond, a crash of thunder shook the building, followed by the unmistakable sound of water cascading through the ceiling. Shouts of surprise echoed from the main hall. "The roof!" Olivia exclaimed, leaping to her feet and rushing out of the office. The scene in the main hall was chaos. Rain poured through a growing crack in the ceiling, soaking the basketball court. The elderly Tai Chi practitioners huddled in the corner, while teenagers scrambled to salvage equipment. Sarah was already directing traffic, her calm voice an anchor in the storm. "Everyone to the east side of the building," she called. "Tyler, grab those towels from the storage room." Olivia joined the fray, moving tables and directing children away from the leaking ceiling. She barely registered Jackson's presence until he was beside her, handing out towels from a stack that had materialized from somewhere. "Do you have tarps?" he asked, his voice all business now. "Anything waterproof?" Olivia nodded. "In the maintenance closet, but the ladder's broken." Before she could finish, Jackson was wheeling toward the closet, determination set in his features. Minutes later, he had organized 2 teenage boys to climb on chairs and secure tarps across the worst of the leaks, directing them with the precision of a military commander. For hours, they worked side by side, saving what they could and minimizing the damage. As the storm finally began to subside, Olivia found herself collapsing onto a bench beside Jackson, both of them soaked to the skin and exhausted. "Thank you," she said simply. "You didn't have to stay and help." Jackson looked around at the community center, at the children now playing cards by flashlight, the elderly women sharing thermoses of tea, the teenagers joking as they mopped up the last of the water. Something in his expression softened. "Maybe. I wanted to," he said quietly. Their eyes met, and for the first time Olivia saw past the walls he had built. In that unguarded moment, she glimpsed vulnerability, pain, and something else, a loneliness that matched her own. The moment was broken by Sarah approaching with 2 steaming cups of coffee. "Thought you both could use this," she said, handing them each a mug. Olivia accepted gratefully, wrapping her cold fingers around the warmth. "The roof's going to need more than patchwork this time," she sighed, the weight of financial reality crashing back down. Jackson took a thoughtful sip of his coffee. "I might know someone who could help with that." Olivia glanced at him sideways, suspicious yet hopeful. "No strings attached?" A genuine smile transformed his face, erasing years of cynicism. "Let's just say I'm invested in seeing this place succeed." He extended his hand. "Partners?" After a moment's hesitation, Olivia took his hand, feeling calluses she wouldn't have expected from a tech millionaire. "Partners. But if you ever accuse me of theft again, all bets are off." "Fair enough," Jackson laughed, the sound rusty as though long unused. As they sat in comfortable silence, watching the community center's patrons adapt and carry on despite the storm's damage, neither could ignore the strange sense that something significant had shifted between them. What had begun as antagonism had transformed into something uncertain yet full of possibility, like the calm after a storm when the world feels washed clean and ready for a new beginning. The renovation of Harbour Community Centre progressed faster than anyone had anticipated. Within weeks, the old leaky roof had been replaced with a modern, energy-efficient alternative. The peeling paint gave way to fresh colours chosen by the centre's youngest patrons. Even the ancient heating system, which had wheezed and sputtered through countless Maine winters, was upgraded to something that actually kept the building warm. Jackson hadn't just written a check, he'd been present every step of the way, bringing in his company's best contractors and personally overseeing the work. What had started as a gesture of apology had evolved into something more, though neither he nor Olivia could quite define what that more was. Today, Jackson's sleek black Tesla pulled up to the center at precisely 9 o'clock, as it had every morning for the past 3 weeks. Olivia watched from the window as he transferred himself from car to wheelchair with practiced efficiency, no longer surprised by how capably he managed without assistance. When he first started showing up regularly, she'd made the mistake of offering to help. The frost in his eyes had been answer enough. "Your guardian angel's here," Sarah teased, appearing at Olivia's side with 2 cups of coffee. Olivia rolled her eyes. "He's a donor who's taking an active interest in his investment, that's all." And I'm sure it has nothing to do with how you're the only person in Portland who isn't impressed by his billions." Before Olivia could retort, the door opened, bringing in a blast of October air and Jackson himself. His cheeks reddened slightly from the cold. "Morning," he greeted, accepting the coffee Sarah handed him. His eyes found Olivia's, and something in his gaze made her stomach flutter, a reaction she promptly chose to ignore. "The contractors are finishing up the floor in the East Wing today," he continued. "We should be able to reopen that section by tomorrow." "Thank you," Olivia said, meaning it. "The seniors are getting restless in the temporary space. Mrs. Abernathy keeps threatening to bring her protest signs if she doesn't get her usual spot. For Tai Chi back soon." Jackson laughed, the sound no longer rusty but warm and genuine. The transformation in him over these weeks had been subtle but unmistakable. The hard edges remained, but they were softening, like sea glass tumbled by waves. "I'd better go supervise," he said, setting down his empty cup. "The flooring crew gets creative if you don't watch them." As he wheeled away toward the East Wing, Sarah nudged Olivia with her elbow. "Just a donor, huh?" "Oh, shut up," Olivia muttered, but she couldn't help smiling. Later that afternoon, Olivia was sorting through donation forms in her office when a knock at the doorframe made her look up. Jackson hovered in the doorway, a strange tension in his shoulders. "Got a minute?" he asked. "Sure. Everything okay with the renovations?" "The renovations are fine." He wheeled into the office, positioning himself across from her desk. "I received an interesting call this morning from Amanda Carroll." Olivia's pen stilled mid-signature. "Oh?" "She says she's an old friend of yours. Mentioned you two went to college together." "That's right." Olivia kept her voice carefully neutral. "She's applying for a position at Hayes Innovations. Senior Marketing Director. Asked me to dinner tonight to discuss the role." Jackson's eyes never left her face. Interesting coincidence, don't you think? The implications hung heavy in the air. Amanda Carroll, Olivia's college roommate and former best friend. Amanda, who knew everything about Olivia's past. Amanda, who had an uncanny talent for inserting herself exactly where she wasn't wanted. "It's a small world," Olivia said finally. "Is it?" Jackson's voice hardened. "Or did you reach out to her? Set this up somehow?" The accusation stung, all, the more because they'd been making such progress. "Why would I do that?" "I don't know, Olivia. Why don't you tell me? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like an awfully convenient way to get information about me and my company." "Information? For what possible purpose?" Jackson's laugh was harsh, nothing like the warm sound from earlier. Money, influence, take your pick. It wouldn't be the first time someone used a personal connection to try to get close to me. Olivia stood slowly, anger building inside her. I have nothing to do with Amanda applying to your company. I haven't spoken to her in years, and I'm supposed to just believe that? He shook his head, the familiar distrust back in his eyes. I thought you were different. I am different, Olivia snapped, but clearly you aren't ready to see that. You'd rather believe the worst of everyone because it's safer than actually trusting someone. The words hit their mark. She could see it in the way he flinched slightly. But instead of backing down, Jackson leaned forward, his voice low and intense. You know nothing about me or what I've been through. You're right, she countered, because you never let anyone in. It's easier to hide behind your walls and your wealth than to risk being vulnerable again. A tense silence stretched between them, charged with things unsaid. Finally, Jackson turned his wheelchair toward the door. I'll have the contractors finish the job, he said stiffly. Consider it the fulfillment of my commitment to this center. After that, I think it's best we go our separate ways. He left without, looking back, leaving Olivia staring after him, a complicated mix of anger and regret churning inside her. That evening, as sunset painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, Olivia found herself walking along the harbor, trying to sort through her tangled thoughts. The sea air carried the scent of salt and possibilities, but all she could think about was the look in Jackson's eyes when he'd accused her of manipulation. Her phone buzzed with an incoming text. Amanda. Hey, stranger. Guess who's back in Portland? Let's catch up. I'm having dinner with your millionaire friend tonight. Lots to tell you. XOXO. Olivia's stomach dropped. Of course Amanda would reach out now, after years of silence. Of course she would somehow find her way to Jackson. It had always been Amanda's particular talent, identifying the most valuable person in any situation and gravitating toward them. A memory surfaced, sharp and painful. Senior year of college, Olivia's boyfriend, the one she thought she might marry someday. Amanda with her perfect hair and calculated innocence. It just happened, she'd said. We didn't mean to hurt you. And now history was repeating itself. Only this time, Olivia had no claim on Jackson Hayes. He wasn't her boyfriend or even her friend, not really. He was just someone who'd begun to matter against all odds. Her phone buzzed again, not Amanda this time, but Sarah. SOS at the center. Pipe burst in the new bathroom. Water everywhere. Need all hands on deck. Grateful for the distraction, Olivia turned and headed back toward the community center at a brisk pace. Whatever was happening between her and Jackson, or not happening as the case now seemed, would have to wait. The center needed her, and that was one relationship she could always count on. When she arrived, however, it wasn't a burst pipe that awaited her, but Jackson Hayes himself, standing, yes, standing, beside a table set for two in the middle of the newly renovated East Wing. Soft music played from hidden speakers, and candles flickered on the table, casting a warm glow over the space. Jackson? Olivia's voice was barely above a whisper. You're standing. His smile was tinged with nervousness. Braces, he explained, gesturing to the high-tech supports visible beneath his pant legs. New prototype my company's developing. I can manage short periods upright with them. But I thought you were having dinner with Amanda. I cancelled. Some things seemed more important. He took a tentative step toward her. Like the truth and apologies, both of which I owe you. Olivia stood frozen, trying to process the scene before her. Sarah texted about a burst pipe. I may have enlisted her help, he admitted. I wasn't sure you'd come otherwise. Why go to all this trouble? Jackson's expression grew serious. Because you were right, about everything. I do hide behind walls. I have since the accident, since the betrayal that caused it. He took another careful step. But these past weeks working with you, seeing how you lead this community, you've started to make me believe in people again, in possibilities. He gestured toward the chair. Have dinner with me? Let me explain properly. No more assumptions. No more hiding. Olivia hesitated on the threshold of something that felt monumental, There were still so many questions, so many reasons to be cautious. But as she looked at Jackson, really looked at him, she saw past the wealth and the walls to the man beneath, standing vulnerable before her in more ways than one. "Okay," she said finally, moving toward the table, "but I want the whole story. No edited versions." "No edited versions," he agreed, relief evident in his face as they both took their seats. "It begins 6 years ago, with a woman named Rebecca Jensen. Rebecca Jensen was my business partner. Qu'un fiancé," Jackson began, his fingers absently tracing the rim of his water glass. "We met at MIT, both ambitious, both brilliant. At least that's what everyone told us. We built Hayes Innovations together from a dorm room startup to a multi-million-dollar company in just 3 years." Olivia listened intently, watching as Jackson's face softened with memories before hardening again with pain. "I trusted her completely, with my company, my patents, my future. What I didn't know was that she'd been selling our proprietary technology to competitors for months." His voice remained steady, but Olivia could see the cost of this control in the tension of his shoulders. "When I discovered the betrayal, I confronted her. We argued in the car. She was driving." He took a deep breath. "The crash left me paralyzed from the waist down. Rebecca walked away without a scratch, physically at least. She lost everything else. Her freedom, her reputation, her future. She's serving 10 years for industrial espionage and reckless endangerment." "I'm so sorry," Olivia said softly. Jackson nodded in acknowledgement. "After that, I buried myself in work, in physical therapy, in rebuilding what she'd nearly destroyed. I became, what did you call it? A man who believes the worst of everyone because it's safer than trusting." His smile was self-deprecating. "Accurate assessment. People cope however they can," Olivia said. "After what you went through, I can understand the walls." "What about you?" Jackson asked, genuinely curious. "You mentioned you haven't spoken to Amanda in years. There's a story there." Olivia hesitated, then decided that if Jackson could share his pain, she could reciprocate. "Classic tale of betrayal, though less dramatic than yours. Amanda was my best friend in college, or so I thought. Senior year, I found out she'd been sleeping with my boyfriend of 3 years, the man I thought I'd marry someday." Ouch. "Yeah, but the worst part wasn't the cheating. It was the realization that our entire friendship had been transactional for her. She got close to people who could offer her something: popularity, connections, opportunities. Once she'd extracted whatever value she saw in them, she moved on." "And now she's targeting me," Jackson mused. "Exactly her pattern," Olivia confirmed. "Find the most influential person in any room and orbit them until she gets what she wants." Jackson reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of touching hers. "Thank you for telling me, for warning me." Their eyes met in shared understanding. Two people who had been wounded by those they trusted most, now cautiously reaching toward connection again. "So," Olivia said, lightening her tone, "what happens now? With Amanda, I mean." A mischievous glint appeared in Jackson's eyes. "Well, I did some research after our disagreement earlier. Your friend Amanda has quite a history of job hopping and burning bridges. I've already called the HR department to rescind the interview offer. You didn't have to do that." "Actually, I did. Not just because of her history with you, but because Hayes Innovations can't afford another Rebecca Jensen. My company is built on trust and innovation, neither of which seems to be Amanda's strong suit." The conversation flowed more easily after that, moving from painful pasts to current projects. Jackson spoke passionately about the adaptive technology division of his company, which focused on creating affordable mobility aids. Olivia shared her vision for expanding the community center's programs to include job training for at-risk youth. "You know," Jackson said thoughtfully, "there might be a way our interests could align there. Hayes Innovations is always looking for sharp young minds in technology. An internship program could benefit both your kids and my company." "That would be amazing," Olivia admitted, excitement building as possibilities unfolded. "These teenagers have so much potential. They just need someone to believe in them." "Like someone believed in you?" Jackson asked perceptively. Olivia nodded, surprised by his insight. My high school guidance counselor, Mrs. Winters, she saw something in me when everyone else had written me off as just another foster kid bouncing through the system. She's the reason I went to college, the reason I came back to help this community. Is she still around, Mrs. Winters? No, Olivia answered, a shadow crossing her face. She experienced heart failure 5 years ago, but her legacy lives on, in everyone she helped. Jackson raised his glass. To Mrs. Winters, then, and to new beginnings. Olivia clinked her glass against his. To new beginnings. As autumn deepened into winter, the relationship between Olivia and Jackson evolved with a careful tenderness, like seedlings pushing through snow. The internship program took shape, bringing Hayes Innovations engineers to the community center, twice weekly to mentor teenagers in coding and robotics. Jackson became a regular fixture at community events, his initial discomfort gradually replaced by genuine engagement. For the center's annual Christmas celebration, Jackson surprised everyone by arriving with a truck full of high-end computers, one for each teenager in the internship program. Tools for your future, he told them, visibly moved by their stunned faces and tearful gratitude. Later that evening, as volunteers cleaned up and the last families departed, Olivia found Jackson by the window, watching the snow fall in thick, lazy flakes. That was an incredible gift you gave those kids, she said, joining him in admiring the transformed world outside, everything soft and white and full of possibility. They deserve it, he replied simply. Every one of them has overcome more obstacles than most adults I know. Olivia studied his profile, noting how much more relaxed he seemed these days. You've changed since that first day at the charity event. He turned to face her, his expression open in a way that still surprised her. You've changed me, or rather you've reminded me of who I was before the accident, before Rebecca. Someone who believed in possibilities instead of just threats. Jackson, let me finish, he said gently. I've been wanting to tell you something. He took a deep breath. Next month, I'm scheduled for an experimental surgery, a new procedure, using nerve stimulation technology that my company has been developing. If it works, I might regain partial sensation and mobility in my legs. Olivia's eyes widened. That's incredible and terrifying, I imagine. Terrifying, he agreed, but also hopeful. For the first time in 6 years, I'm allowing myself to hope again. His hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. That's because of you, Olivia. I didn't do anything special, she protested. You did, he insisted. You saw past the wealth and the walls and the wheelchair. You called me on my paranoia and pushed me to be better. He hesitated, vulnerability flickering across his features. You made me want to try walking again, in every sense of the word. The moment stretched between them, fragile and precious. Olivia felt herself teetering on the edge of something profound, both exhilarating and frightening in its intensity. Whatever happens with the surgery, she said finally, squeezing his hand, I'm here. We'll face it together. The day of Jackson's surgery dawned clear and cold, the January sky a brilliant blue. Olivia paced the waiting room, trying to focus on the magazine in her hands rather than the clock ticking slowly on the wall. Sarah had offered to come with her, but Olivia had declined, knowing she'd be poor company in her anxious state. 6 hours later, the surgeon emerged, his expression unreadable beneath his mask. Ms. Mitchell, he called, and Olivia's heart lurched. Yes, how is he? The procedure went as well as we could have hoped. We won't know the full results for weeks as the nerve stimulation begins to take effect, but the initial responses are promising. He smiled then, the corners of his eyes crinkling above his mask. He's asking for you. Jackson lay propped against pillows, looking exhausted but alert when Olivia entered his room. The usual commanding presence was muted by hospital gowns and monitors, making him seem suddenly achingly human. Hey, she said softly, taking the chair beside his bed. Hey, yourself. His voice was hoarse but warm. Sorry I'm not more entertaining company right now. I think you get a pass just this once. She reached for his hand, careful of the IV. The doctor says it went well. Jackson nodded, his eyes never leaving her face. They're cautiously optimistic, but even if it doesn't work, he trailed off, then started again more firmly. Even if I never take another step, I realized something while they were prepping me for surgery. What's that? That? I'm already standing taller than I have in years, because of you, because of us. His grip tightened on hers. Falling in love with you has healed parts of me I thought were broken forever. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. Those 3 words, spoken so simply amid the hospital's sterile environment, filled the room with a warmth no machine could generate. They'd been circling this moment for months, both too wounded by past betrayals to rush headlong into vulnerability. I love you too, she whispered, the words feeling both momentous and completely natural. Walls and all. 3 months later, the community center buzzed with excitement. The annual Spring Gala, their biggest fundraiser of the year, had been transformed from its usual modest affair into Portland's most talked-about charity event, thanks to Hayes Innovations' sponsorship. Olivia surveyed the decorated main hall with pride. Volunteers had worked tirelessly, transforming the space with twinkling lights, fresh flowers, and elegant table settings. The newly renovated building shone, a tangible symbol of renewal and possibility. Everything looks perfect, Sarah declared, joining Olivia by the entrance. The mayor just arrived, and there's a line of cars stretching down the block. We're going to exceed our fundraising goal tonight for sure. Have you seen Jackson? Olivia asked, smoothing her emerald gown nervously. He was supposed to be here an hour ago to check the AV setup for his presentation. Sarah's expression turned mysterious. He called, said he's running late, but to start without him. He'll be here for the main event. Before Olivia could question further, the first guests began to arrive, and she was swept into her role as hostess. The evening progressed in a blur of introductions, speeches, and silent auction announcements. By the time the main program was set to begin, Olivia found herself scanning the crowd anxiously for any sign of Jackson. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced, please welcome to the stage the founder and CEO of Hayes Innovations, and the visionary behind the Harbor Community Center's remarkable transformation, Mr. Jackson Hayes. The crowd applauded, and Olivia turned toward the side entrance where Jackson typically appeared. The door remained closed. Instead, the main doors at the back of the hall opened, and there stood Jackson, not in his wheelchair, but standing upright, supported by 2 sleek carbon fiber canes. He wore a custom tuxedo that concealed the cutting-edge braces beneath, his posture straight and proud as he began a slow but steady walk down the center aisle. Gasps and whispers spread through the crowd. Those who knew his story watched in amazement. Those who didn't were simply impressed by the dramatic entrance. But Olivia saw only Jackson's face, determined, joyful, his eyes locked on hers as he made his way toward the stage, one careful step at a time. When he reached the front, he handed his canes to Sarah and took the final 3 steps to the microphone unassisted, gripping the podium for support as the room erupted in applause. Thank you, he said, when the crowd finally quieted. As some of you know, I've been undergoing an experimental treatment using technology developed by Hayes Innovations' medical division. Tonight marks the first time I've walked in public in 6 years. He paused as another round of applause broke out. But I'm not here to talk about my personal journey. I'm here to talk about another kind of healing, the kind that happens when a community comes together. His gaze found Olivia in the front row. The kind that happens when someone believes in you, challenges you, and refuses to let you hide behind your walls. For the next 10 minutes, Jackson spoke eloquently about the center's impact, announcing a 5-year funding commitment from Hayes Innovations that would secure its future. But it was his closing remarks that left not a dry eye in the house. 6 years ago, I experienced a betrayal that nearly destroyed me. I lost faith in people. I lost faith in myself. I built walls so high and so thick that I thought nothing could breach them. His voice softened. And then I met Olivia Mitchell, who showed me that the greatest courage isn't in protecting yourself from hurt, but in opening yourself to love despite the risk of pain. He gestured for Olivia to join him on stage, Stunned, she made her way up the steps as the audience applauded. This community center stands as a testament to what we can build when we choose trust over fear, hope over cynicism, connection over isolation, Jackson continued, taking Olivia's hand. And so tonight, in front of all of you who have supported this vision, I want to ask Olivia a question. With careful movements, Jackson lowered himself to one knee, maintaining his balance. With remarkable control as he reached into his pocket and produced a small velvet box. "Olivia Mitchell," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion evident in his eyes. "You've helped me learn to walk again in every way that matters. Would you do me the extraordinary honor of walking through life by my side as my wife?" Time seemed to stand. Still as Olivia looked down at this man, who had transformed from a cynical, wounded soul into the brave, loving person before her. In his eyes, she saw not just love, but a profound understanding of her strengths and vulnerabilities, her hopes and fears. "Yes," she answered, her voice clear and certain. "Yes, I will." As Jackson slipped the ring onto her finger and rose to embrace her, the room erupted in cheers. But for Olivia and Jackson, the noise faded away, leaving only the profound certainty that they had found in each other not just love, but healing. The courage to trust again, to hope again, to build something beautiful from the broken pieces of the past. Two people who had learned the hard way that walls might protect you from pain, but they also keep out joy, connection, and love. Two people who had found the courage to open those doors again, to step into vulnerability with faith that what waited on the other side was worth the risk. And in that moment, surrounded by the community they had helped build together, they knew without a doubt that it was the end of the story. Dear listeners, we hope that Olivia and Jackson's journey has touched your hearts. Their story reminds us that sometimes our greatest wounds can lead to our deepest healing, if only we find the courage to trust again. For more emotional journeys like this one, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories. Find it by clicking to your left. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Every day we bring unique stories that explore life's complexity and the power of love to